Wantami Bante. We are ready for your teachings. May we invite Bante to start the teaching, please? Sādhu, Sādhu, Sādhu.
Good morning, everybody. Let's start our Abhidhamma study, reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, welcome to Abhidhamma study, lesson 13. This lesson is about a cause and effect relationship. So we have studied some parts of the Citta chapter, the chapter on consciousness. There we have finished about the general knowledge and the unwholesome consciousness, rootless consciousness, and also sense pure, beautiful consciousness. After that, we come to study about the cause and effect relationship. Although this is not mentioned in this chapter, usually mentioned in the chapter of the part 3, which is called the Vichimoda, chapter 5. So in order to understand properly how the wholesome consciousness and unwholesome consciousness are working to generate their result, so we should know about the cause and effect relationship. Actually, when I'm trying to prepare this lesson, many information about these topics of cause and effect relationship come into my mind according to Abhidhamma. But too much information make it difficult to understand properly for beginners. So I'm trying to select out only some information and basics information to make clear for our members of Abhidhamma study in this level. So as I has mentioned at the beginning of this study, in order to understand properly, we have to go step by step. So this lesson about the cause and effect relationship will be only an introduction to point out or to relate the connection of cause and effect. This means we have studied unwholesome consciousness to relate the unwholesome causes of action. And also we have studied sense pure, beautiful consciousness, beautiful wholesome consciousness, which can generate the pleasurable results. So to relate the wholesome manner of the 10 bases of meritorious deeds and wholesome causes of action. Then now we will try to make the relationship, we are trying to study about the cause and effect relationship in this lesson. So let's continue. So to understand properly, we have to go back to the previous understanding in the previous lesson. So here, this slide is taken from lesson 9 to review about the mentality, the process of mentality, how it works or how it arises in the individual. What we say, the individual is the combination of mental process and physical process. So come together, or sometimes they are running themselves separately. So it is called the beings of individual. So in this case, the process is given starting from the death of the previous life in order to show the transition of the life from previous past to the present life and present life to the future. So in this way, getting new life, expanding the samsara. This is the way how we are running in the samsara. So we have already passed the past life. Now we are in present life, starting from the rebirth up to the death of this present life. And if we have the condition to continue, we will be reborn in any realms as a beings of that realms. So that is running in the samsara. In this way, during the life, we can find the unwholesome and also wholesome that can generate the future result, which bring the potency. The unwholesome and wholesome, they keep the potency to generate the resultants. The resultant is here. You see the starting point of our life is the resultant, which is called the rebirth. The rebirth-linking consciousness is a kind of resulting consciousness. So that resultance is generated by the past karma. So past karma is cause, and then present life, the rebirth of this present life is resultants. So we see we had done the present past karma in the past. We have done karma in the past. As a result of that, we were born in this present life and continue as long as the past karma generates the resultants. Our life will continue. We don't know how many years. And during the life, we commit the unwholesome, and also we perform the wholesome. These are actions, which can be the cause of the next life. Okay, now this is just to remember the cause and effect relationship in the life sequence in the sequence of the life, past, present, and let's continue about the two types of resulting. So among the mind movements of the life, we see here the resulting sometimes is functional, wholesome, unwholesome. These are bhavanga are also the resultant types of the resultant consciousness. So among these resultant consciousness resultants, we can find the two types of resultant. First one is Patisandhi Vipaka, as I said at the beginning of the life, the rebirth-linking consciousness. That is Patisandhi Vipaka. So any life starts by the Vipaka, by the resultant. Then during the life, the Bodhi Vipaka. So we can classify resultant into two. The first one is the very first moment, and also which decided what kind of beings. So that is called the Patisandhi Vipaka, resultant at rebirth-linking. And Bodhi Vipaka is resultant in life or during the course of life. This is called Bodhi Vipaka. So after being born as a being, we encounter good and bad condition. It means that we get the good and bad result of our past karma. our past kamma. So we have done in the past good and bad kamma. They generate good and bad result in this life. And also some of the potency of the kamma will continue to next life up to the attainment of the nibbana. So here the statement mentioned in the comprehensive manual or Abhidhamma, they are characteristic of a full course of action is being a kamma, the potency to take on rebirth generation. So here the emphasis is to take on the rebirth generation roles. So full course of action. So we have said that the akusala kammapata or kusala kammapata, apunya kriya vatu, like this. The kamma with the full course, it can generate the rebirth in any life. According to it is a good and bad. So the full course of action in unwholesome case, that will give the rebirth in the wholesome state, and full course of action of the wholesome is called the wholesome kamma, that will generate the beautiful life. So not only giving the rebirth, not only generating rebirth, it can generate the result in the during life too. So at the moment one commit unwholesome, there are many mind movements, uncountable mind movements happens only in 1 second or 2 seconds like this. So during the life we perform, we commit unwholesome and we perform the wholesome. At the moment is longer than the 1 minute and 2 minutes like this. So the longer moment has more frequency or more mind movements, which contain the potency to generate the rebirth and also to generate the result in the during life. So the second time, it means we are running around the samsara, carrying the potency that can produce the rebirth and also that can produce good and bad result during life. Okay, so in this case, let's see what is the kamma, the exactly mean the kamma. So kamma here in this case, the cause refers to the kamma, not the other cause. So cause and effect relationship, in this case, we are trying to emphasize on the cause of the kamma. So kamma means the mental factors of volition, which is called cetana in Pali. So that volition is according to the classification of reality, it is a mental factor. Mental factor cannot arise as a single things. So it arises with the other mental factors and also consciousness. So leaded by the consciousness, it arises in the group. So volition as a mental factor, it also arises along with the unwholesome rules or wholesome rules. So when the volition arises, either unwholesome rules or wholesome rules arise. That's why we can say when the volition of mental factors arise with unwholesome rules, it is the unwholesome kamma. And when the volition arises with the wholesome rules, it is called the wholesome kamma. In this way, only the mental factors of volition can be classified into wholesome and unwholesome kamma. So when we identify the volition as a kamma, the Buddha said in the Anguttara Nikaya in Chakanipada, the Chetanaham Bhikkhave Kammang Vadami, Chityetua Kammang Kroti, Kayina Vajaya Manasa. So we perform the action by physical body or by bubble as a bubble action of the only in the mind. Although it can be divided into three, all of them are caused by their volition, motivated by their volition. So volition is the kamma. So the Buddha identified the volition as a kamma. Then the volition, that volition drives to commit unwholesome courses of action. So by the force of the volition, a person can commit the unwholesome courses of action, such as the killing, stealing, etc. Then also he can perform 10 bases of meritorious deed by the force of the volition to donate. So the volition arises along with the wholesome roots. It encourages to make the generosity of moral, to keep the moral precept in this way. So by the encouragement of the volition, that person perform 10 bases of meritorious deeds or 10 wholesome courses of action. Those are regarded as the wholesome deeds, wholesome deeds. So when the kamma is done, so here by the encouragement or by the force of the volition, the kamma is done. When the kamma is done, it is ready to generate the resultants, either which is good or bad, and by the support of other condition. So as soon as the kamma is done, it cannot produce. It needs to have the other supporting condition to give or to generate the respective resultants. After committing or after committing the unwholesome action or after performing the wholesome action, it's become the kamma. The kamma have the potency to produce two types of resultants, as mentioned in the previous slide, the Patisandhi Vipaka and Pavati Vipaka. So this is the connection of the kamma cause and the resultants, which is called the effect of the kamma. Then, so how the kamma or volition arise? So as I mentioned, that the volition as a mental factor is arise with the other mental factors and consciousness. Here, when this is any of the unwholesome consciousness, but the consciousness just walk to aware the objects. Its characteristic is to aware the objects. It does not make other things. And when the consciousness arises, along with the consciousness, the mental factor arise together. There, among the mental factor, there is a volition, so which can be regarded as a kamma, which can encourage the other mental factors to work properly according to their characteristic. So here in this case, due to the greed, hatred, and delusion, so that consciousness can be understood as unwholesome because of these roots and other unwholesome mental factors. And the volition is also regarded as the unwholesome because of the accompanying mental factors. This is called the unwholesome kamma. Then let's continue to the other side of the wholesome. These are the beautiful mental factors, which those are regarded as wholesome and also the beautiful. So sometimes it is wholesome, sometimes resultant, and sometimes just functional, but they all are beautiful. So among these, we don't need to study in detail in each of the mental factors. We will study in detail about the mental fetter in the chapter 2. So just to give the information about the beautiful mental fetters. So here, how it arises when we try to perform the wholesome deeds. The consciousness arises in our mental process. This is the consciousness. Along with the consciousness, the mental fetters accompany. So among that mental fetters, there's the volition. This volition is regarded as the wholesome of the beautiful because it arises with the mental fetter of here, the non-greed, alobha, and non-hatred, adosa, and sometimes it arises with the wisdom faculty, which is regarded as the non-delusion. So these three roots are beautiful roots. So this volition can be understood as the when it is performed the wholesome deed, the wholesome volition or wholesome kamma. So this is how the volition arises in the mental process. When the person commit the unwholesome, the previous slide there, the volition along with the unwholesome roots arise. It has the potential to generate the result. Then here, when the person perform the meritorious deed or wholesome courses of action, at the moment the volition with the beautiful mental fetters or wholesome roots arise. This is called the wholesome kamma. Then, so after becoming the kamma with the potential to generate the resultant, it is ready to generate. So when it generates the resultant, it can be either of the rebirth-linking or the result in the life. Result during the course of life. Okay, let's see the past types of resultants, which is called the rebirth-linking. So there are 19 types of consciousness. Those can be rebirth of the beings, rebirth at the very first moment of the consciousness of the life. So there are 19 types. So here is you see the 2 types of consciousness accompanied by equanimity, 2, and 8 grade become 10s. Then 9 material sphere and immaterial sphere, they together 9. So it becomes the 19. So you can check in the comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma here. But we will talk about this rebirth again in chapter 3. Okay, let's see. To identify the rebirth-linking consciousness with their types. So here, 2 consciousness. If you can remember the classification of the rootless consciousness, 18 rootless consciousness, you can find there 2 types of investigating consciousness. Both of them are accompanied by equanimity. So one is in the wholesome resultant and the other is unwholesome in the unwholesome resultant. So there are 2 types of investigating consciousness. Those can perform the rebirth-linking function. So when they arise as a rebirth of the beings, at the beginning of the life, it arises and perform the function of rebirth-linking. So that can be Padisandhi. Because they are included in the rootless consciousness, rootless types, they are called the rootless rebirth-linking. So in Pali, it is called the Ahituka Padisandhi. Rootless is Ahituka. Rebirth-linking is Padisandhi. So Ahituka Padisandhi. So rebirth-linking, which is no root, is called the rootless rebirth-linking. So you have to notice this. One is wholesome resultant and another one is unwholesome resultant. Then let's continue. Sense feel beautiful. So there are 8 great resultants. So sense feel among the 24 sense feel beautiful consciousness, you can find the second group, that is the 8 great resultant or sense feel beautiful resultant consciousness with roots. This is called the kamma sukati patisandi. So in order to avoid so many information, I remove the Pali name. So this is called the kamma sukati patisandi. Then 5 material sphere resultant. They are rupa vachara patisandi because the rupa vachara 5 material sphere is rupa vachara and resultant is patisandi. So the rebirth-linking consciousness of the 5 material Brahma, that is the 5 material sphere resultants. Then in the same way, the rebirth-linking consciousness of the immaterial sphere Brahma, that is immaterial sphere resultants. In this way, we can identify 19 rebirth-linking consciousness into their types according to the classification of the realms. And here you can take a note that 10 rootless 2 and sense sphere beautiful resultant 8 are regarded as the sense sphere rebirth. Sense sphere rebirth-linking consciousness 10. And 5 material sphere and immaterial sphere can be called sublime rebirth collectively. So to identify sensual sphere and then sublime. So then to classify more, so here the wholesome and unwholesome. So only one types here, unwholesome, 12 unwholesome kamma. It can generate unwholesome resultant 7. So one can be rebirth-linking, which is the investigating consciousness, unwholesome resultant consciousness. It also here included in this group of unwholesome resultant. So we can say the unwholesome consciousness, unwholesome kamma, the volition along with the unwholesome consciousness can generate unwholesome resultant. If we don't classify into 2, although it is rebirth-linking or it is the resultant during life, it can be regarded unwholesome resultant 7 according to its kind. Then the rest are wholesome resultants. So they are generated by the wholesome kamma, the volition along with the wholesome consciousness. So sense sphere wholesome 8, 5 material sphere wholesome 5, and immaterial sphere wholesome 4. Altogether, it is regarded as the mundane wholesome 17. The volition along with the mundane wholesome 17 consciousness can generate the wholesome resultants. So that wholesome resultant can be 25. Here you see the rootless, wholesome rootless resultant 8, sense sphere root resultant with roots 8. So this is the group, the second group of the sense sphere beautiful consciousness. Then 5 material sphere resultant 5 and immaterial sphere resultant 4. So this is the cause and effect. This the cause unwholesome consciousness produce the unwholesome resultant. This is the first group of the rootless consciousness. If you can keep the table in the previous slides, previous lesson, that will become clear. Then beyond the cause, the three groups of wholesome give rise the four group of resultants, because the sense-pure wholesome consciousness can produce the two types of resultants, without roots, rootless, or with roots. So in this way, we can understand the cause and effect relationship in the consciousness, among the consciousness. So in this way, the unwholesome kamma 12, or unwholesome consciousness 12, and mundane wholesome 17. So they are the cause, and they generate the rebirth in 31 plane of existence. So when the unwholesome kamma works, the person will be reborn in the woeful state. And then when the mundane wholesome kamma work, give it is resolved, the person will reborn in the higher realms or beautiful realms. So in this way, any of rebirth in 31 plane of existence are generated by the wholesome and unwholesome kamma. Then the kamma can also produce the result during the course of existence. So during the life, the good and bad result will be encountered. Then, okay, so in order to classify more detail about the unwholesome, so as I said in previous slides, it is the 12 together. But here, I'm going to classify more. So you have to select off one consciousness, the chitta rooted in delusion and accompanied by restlessness. So among the 12 unwholesome consciousness, this is the last one. So taking off the last one, because it is the weakest, it is the weakest consciousness. Weakest unwholesome kamma, or weakest unwholesome consciousness, it cannot take the role of generating rebirth. It means the consciousness of the restlessness that cannot generate the rebirth in any realms. So in any realms mean because the unwholesome kamma generate in woeful state. So this cannot give the rebirth in any woeful state. So this is the kind of the kamma which cannot generate the rebirth, resultant of rebirth. It can, in other way, we can understand it can generate only the resultant during the life. So this is one kind. So among the 12 unwholesome kamma, you have to select out one. Then the other 11, so any of the other 11 can generate the whole unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness. This is the rebirth of the woeful state. So that when this unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness is generated by any of the other 11 unwholesome consciousness or kamma, the beings will be reborn in 4 woeful states, any of 4 woeful states, 4 woeful realms. So he or she will be suffer in there as a result of any of 11 unwholesome kamma. So we get the 2 groups in unwholesome. One is the kamma or the consciousness which can generate only the resultant during the life. And the other group can generate both rebirth linking, and also it can generate the resultant during life. Okay, so because of that, those in two groups together, so all 12 unwholesome can generate unwholesome resultant, 7 unwholesome resultant in sensual world. So altogether 7 in sensuous world, but it can generate some of the unwholesome resultants in fine materials world, because they don't have the nose consciousness. In the Brahma world, fine material Brahma world, there is no nose consciousness and tongue consciousness and body consciousness. So being absent of these three, the others, so 4 unwholesome resultant consciousness or unwholesome resultant can be generated by 12 unwholesome kamma in the fine material world. It means in the sensuous world, all 7 unwholesome resultant can be generated. But in fine material world, because the absence of nose, tongue, and body consciousness, the rest 4 consciousness of unwholesome resultant can be generated by 12 unwholesome. So in this slide, to clarify again, there are two class of consciousness according to their rule of generating resultants. So one type of the chitta in delusion and accompanied by restlessness. That is one kind. It can generate only the resultant in life, during life. The other 11 can generate the rebirth. So this is 2 group, but for the resultant during life, all 12 unwholesome can produce the resultant during life, which is called the Bodhi Vipaka. But according to the realms, it can be different in number, because the sensual world, we can have all the sense faculty. So it completes 7 unwholesome resultant chitta. And being absent by nose, tongue, and body consciousness for the faculties in fine material world, they are the absent. Okay. Let's continue to the next slide. So this also does not give the new information. It's just to identify with the table. So here, resultant in rebirth-linking, which is called the rootless rebirth-linking. It is so according to the types of the consciousness, it is unwholesome resultant only the investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. This is the rootless rebirth-linking. It is generated by 11, one of the 11. So except the less consciousness in awful state. So according to the realm, it can happen only in awful state. And also it generates 7 resultants in resultant during life. It is generated by 12 unwholesome kamma. So resultant during the course of existence, but it can generate both in sensual world and fine material world. Then this is the slide from lesson 5. So here we already studied about the individual, so Pukala. The first one, Dogati Ahituka, Sugati Ahituka. These 2 are Ahituka Pukala. So among the 4 Putujana, 4 ordinary person, so 4 worldlings, 2 individuals are regarded as Ahituka. Okay, then the third one is double rooted, Dvihetuka, and the fourth one, Tihetuka. So then noble person. all noble persons are regarded as the Tihituka according to their rebirth-linking consciousness. So we can enumerate 9 triple rooted individuals. Then if classify Sika Asika in this way. But here we have to remember among the 4 Putujana, 2 are Ahituka. One is Duhituka and one is Tihituka. Together with the 8 noble person, there are 9 triple rooted, 9 Tihituka individual. So let's continue. So here, from the beginnings, the 2 rootless individuals, they are called in Pali Sugati and Dogati Ahituka in the wholeful state. And Sugati Ahituka, this is blissful. So blissful, it is good. Then, so to see their rebirth consciousness here, this column is for the rebirth consciousness. The rebirth consciousness of Dogati Ahituka person is, which is the lowest person, that is unwholesome, resultant, investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. So as I mentioned in previous slide, that is the rebirth of wholeful state. So Dogati Ahituka individual can be found in 4 wholeful states. Okay, let's continue for second person. Sugati Ahituka, because it is Sugati is blissful. This person can be found in the human realms and the first Deva realms, which is called the Chatu Maharaja. So that types of individual is called the Sugati Ahituka. It is rebirth consciousness is wholesome resultant. So as you know, the human realms and Deva realms, this is the blissful realms. So to be reborn in the blissful realms, there must the cause must be good. So that the wholesome resultant is their rebirth consciousness. The second, the rebirth consciousness of second types of the individual is wholesome resultant. Is different from the first one. Investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. So both of them are, both of these rebirth consciousness are come from the rootless group. So they are rootless individual or rootless Patisandi, Ahituka Patisandi. So to continue the third person. So this is the resultant of sense pure, beautiful, wholesome. Here, this become the sense pure resultants accompanied by 2 roots. So aloba and amoha, but there is no amoha. So the 2 roots are aloba and adosa, not amoha, which is called the banya. That's why there is only 2 rooted person, double rooted person. So Dvihetuka Pukala. Then here in the slide, you have to change the 3 roots. So the person of the 9 triple rooted individual. So the rebirth of 9 triple rooted individual are altogether 13. It can be the sense pure resultant accompanied by 3 roots. So here altogether sense pure resultant 8. 3 root 4 and 2 root 4. The rebirth of the Tihetuka must be the 3 rooted. So the resultant consciousness accompanied by aloba, adosa, and also amoha, which is called the jnana or knowledge. So this must be jnana sampayutta 4. Then 5 material sphere, 5 and immaterial sphere, 4. Altogether, these are 13 the triple rooted patisandi or rebirth, triple rooted rebirth. So Tihetuka patisandi. So in this way, we understand the individual according to their rebirth consciousness. So that these rebirth consciousness are generated by the unwholesome cause and wholesome causes. So here the cause is unwholesome. The others individuals are born due to the wholesome cause. So this table trying to identify unwholesome individual and the individual generated by the wholesome. Then let's continue kamma and resultant to relate. So as I mentioned in previous slides, here the 11 unwholesome kamma, except the chitta rooted in delusion and accompanied by restlessness. So 11 can produce the abhaya patisandhi, which is called unwholesome resultant investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. So rebirth-linking in 4 woeful states. So just to know, we already captured the main causes of the understanding, just to identify. So altogether 12. All 12 can generate the resultant during the course of existence, which is called the pavati vipaka. This is the patisandhi vipaka. This is the pavati vipaka. So we can classify resultants of unwholesome into 2 in this way. This is the unwholesome cause and bad result. Then there are 4 types of wholesome kamma, 4 classes of wholesome kamma. So from the lower to the higher, here driheduka omaka, driheduka okata, tiheduka omaka, tiheduka okata. So this is the lowest one. When a person performs the meritorious deed without the knowledge, it is called the driheduka. And also it is surrounded by the unwholesome. So it is omaka, it is inferior. So inferior, but it is wholesome, still wholesome, but inferior is accompanied by only 2 rules, the exception of the knowledge. This is the lowest one. Then if the wholesome is not surrounded by the unwholesome, it is surrounded by the wholesome, the former and the following, the preceding one and following one, both are wholesome. This is regarded as the superior one, but still it is 2 rules without knowledge, without jnana. So jnana vipayuddha, both are jnana vipayuddha, but the first class, this one is the omaka or inferior, is surrounded by the unwholesome, because of that it is the weakest one. Then if it is surrounded by the wholesome, the previous one also wholesome, the following one also wholesome. So surrounded by the wholesome, it becomes the superior. So the classification of superior and inferior come in this way. Then here become another class is 3 roots. So 2 roots are without jnana, without wisdom, and become 3 roots with the wisdom. The person perform any of meritorious deed with the knowledge or with the wisdom. It is called the 3 roots. Then if it is surrounded by the unwholesome, it is called the inferior. So still it can be inferior even if it is by 3 roots, accompanied by 3 roots. So then the highest one is it is done by 3 roots. And also it is surrounded by a wholesome, the previous one wholesome, the following one wholesome. So in this way, it becomes superior, accompanied by 3 roots. In this way, the wholesome kamma can be classified into four class of wholesome kamma. That they also generate a different. So the highest one, the Tiheduga Okata, it can generate the Tiheduga Bodhisanti. So there are 4 rebirth-linking consciousness with 3 roots. So Jnana Sampayutta, Vipaka, 4. And in 7 beautiful sensual world, because this is the sensual, sense pure wholesome karma, it generates only in the 7 beautiful sensual world. It cannot give the rebirth in the Brahma world, because the cause is sense pure wholesome. And also for the Pavati Vibhaga, it generates altogether 16 resultants during the course of existence. We already mentioned this 16. 8 in the rootless and 8 in the wholesome resultant with roots. Then yes, second group and third group, they have the same potency to generate the rebirth linking. Duheduga Bodhisanti. So for rebirth linking consciousness, sorry, here this must be 2 root. Duheduga Bodhisanti, this must be 2 root. Then so they also the same realms in 7 beautiful sensual world. Then, but when they produce the resultant during the course of existence, they cannot produce the 4 resultant consciousness with 3 roots. So that's why only 12 resultant can be generated by these 2 class of wholesome deeds, excluding 4 great resultant accompanied by knowledge. So because even though this is 3-do, it is surrounded by unwholesome. It is weak. Because it is weak, it cannot generate the knowledge. Then the last group here, the weakest one, the Dviheduga Omaka, but it is wholesome. It is weakest wholesome. The weakest wholesome can produce Aheduga Sugati Bodhisanti. Because of the cause is, because the cause is wholesome, it must be Sugati, so blissful realm. That is the, according to the class of the consciousness, the wholesome resultant, investigating consciousness accompanied by equanimity. This is called the Kamma Sugati Aheduka Bodhisanti. Aheduka Bodhisanti. So it can be found in human realms and first Deva realms, but not in the other Deva realms. So this type of wholesome consciousness can produce the resultant during the course of existence is only 8. So rootless wholesome resultant can be generated by the weakest one. So in this way, we can understand the cause and effect relationship in the consciousness. And when the consciousness, unwholesome consciousness arises, it can bring what types of resultant. And when the sense pure wholesome consciousness arises, and it can bring what types of resultants. And the others, the 5 materials, pure, wholesome, and their resultants are very clear. So they produce the same resultant, the same types of resultants. So we don't need to explain it again. So this is the cause and effect relationship in the consciousness, and we can understand after study the consciousness. Okay, so here I'm going to stop my explanation in this lesson 13. We will continue to question and answer session.
Thank you, Bante. Can Bante lead us in making aspiration and sharing of merits, please?
Okay. So let's make aspiration and share our merit. Please follow me. The imina punya kamena
Imina punya kamena
ami bala samagamo
mame bala samagamo
sadam samagamo hodu
satang samagamo hotu
yava nibbana patiya
yawa nibbana patiya
idami punyam
idame punyang
asawakaya vahang hodu
asawakayang wahang hotu
idami punyam
idame punyang
nibbana sapachayo hodu
nibbana sapachayo hotu
mama punya bhagam
mama punya bagam
sabha satanam bhajemi
sabha satanang pajemi
te sabbe
te sabe
te samam
me samang
punya bhagam lavandu.
punya bagang labantu sadhu sadhu sadhu. Thank you very much, Bante, for your teachings and also your valuable time. Till we meet on next weekend, may all be well and happy always. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.